Between Chains and Wings. Misogyny in Malayalam cinema. By capturing the socio-cultural contexts in its stories and transcending the boundaries of different eras, Malayalam cinema stands as a brilliant representative of both scientific storytelling and beautiful visual language. Malayalam films are praised for the complexity of their characters and the magical intricacy of their scripts. However, many continue to rise against the persistent patriarchy that still exists. Unless the films are female-centric, actresses are often given very minimal or insignificant roles. This situation reflects deeply ingrained gender bias in Kerala society and a patriarchal mindset that supports modernity only on the surface. Viewers tend to idolize their male heroes, emulating them and worshipping them as godlike figures. Therefore, it becomes a responsibility to provide healthy, meaningful content. Every day, the lack of strong female characters in Malayalam cinema continues. Women are often treated as mere ornaments or tools to drive the story forward. The misogyny in Malayalam cinema mirrors the deep-rooted patriarchy of the Kerala society. On November 7, 1928, J.C. Daniel realized his lifelong dream by releasing Vigatakumaran, the first Malayalam feature film. A massive crowd witnessed the screening held at the Capitol's Theatre in Thiruvananthapuram. However, this joy did not last long. Soon, an enraged group of people attacked the screening by throwing stones at the screen. The reason behind the outrage was that P.K. Rossi, a Dalit Christian woman, had played the role of the heroine Sarojini. A Dalit woman considered socially inferior and unworthy of admiration, portraying a Nair woman enraged the feudal Nair community. Rossi was insulted, attacked, and her house was set on fire. Facing threats to her life, the first heroine of Malayalam cinema had to flee to Tamil Nadu and live there in hiding away from the public knowledge. History begins here. From that moment to today, traces of patriarchy have tainted many films that followed. The film Nyangal Sandusharanu 1999 is about a married couple where the wife is portrayed as a modern woman, arrogant and opposed to Kerala's traditional values. This movie was hailed as a perfect example about how a Kulapurushan, or an ideal husband, transformed his wife into a Kulastri, or an ideal woman. However, in reality, the movie progresses through a series of events where the husband constantly insults, mentally abuses his wife under a guise of disciplining her. It tries to justify the humiliation and physical violence inflicted upon the wife. A statement from the husband, "Woman should be calm and disciplined," serves as a prime example. At the end of the film, the heroine's father praises the husband as a god for deciding to marry her. This film was celebrated as a family entertainer and became a major success at the time. It perfectly exemplifies how a particular pattern seen in many Malayalam movies before the 2000s, women who wear modern clothes, speak English, and express opinions fearlessly, are often portrayed as arrogant and selfish. Ultimately, the hero redeems them, transforming them into traditional sari-clad submissive women who confess their sins and beg for forgiveness. How else can one describe this other than appalling? Why do misogynistic dialogues of films emerge? 1. A lack of creative ability on the part of writers or directors. 2. An inability to recognize misogyny within the films. 3. To cater the deep-rooted patriarchy within ourselves. Misogynistic stories and dialogues created for one or all of these reasons know no bounds. Ende Upasana, directed by Bharathan and starring Mammootty, Suhasini and Unnimeri, was released in 1984. The story was written by Mallika Yunus with screenplay and dialogue by Topil Basi. In this film, Suhasini's character is raped by her friend's brother and is forced to give birth to the child. Her lover calls her a prostitute because of what happened. The story concludes with Mammootty's modern character accepting her as a form of redemption for her mistake. The circumstances that led to the rape are depicted as rain, darkness, and the death of his wife. The King, 1995, directed by Shaji Kailas and written by Renji Panikkar, starring Mammootty, contains a notable dialogue where Mammootty's character tells a female assistant district collector, Vani Vishwanath, no woman's hand should rise against a man. And when I say man, that includes rapists, drunkards, thieves, and other so-called men of honor. And from now, whenever any scoundrel stands in front of you and your hand itches to hit him, remember Joseph Alex. Narasimham, 2000, starring Mohanlal, one of the biggest hits in Malayalam cinema, ends with a very romantic proposal. If you strip away the poetic phrasing and hero essentiality, it says, if you're willing to open the door for me at night whenever I feel like coming, if you can bear my slaps and caresses whenever I feel like giving them, and if you can take care of my children, you will come with me. This scene, depicted as a heart-throbbing and romantic, leaves me much to question. Mr. Marumagan, 2012, directed by Sandhya Mogan, starring Dilip, remains one of the most women-taming narratives where independent women are corrected into submission without casteism or misogyny. It seems as Udaya Krishna film would not be incomplete. Yet, the courage to market such films as family entertainment deserves a grim kind of applause. Adiban, 1989, directed by K. Madhu, starring Mohanlal, revolves around a hero trying to marry off his sister to her rapist. A horrifying and wild premise, the same structure reappears in Hitler, 1996 too. It is a positive sign that new writers, directors, and actors and audiences are moving forward against misogyny. A generation with genuine creative talent, one that does not encourage any form of discrimination, must emerge. Not just in life, but in cinema too. A culture that normalizes sexual violence is referred to as rape culture. Cinema, like other institutions, is complicit in establishing it. While Tamil and Malayalam films show these problems to a certain extent, Bollywood is even worse. Such cinema deeply affects the audience, especially teenagers who get heavily influenced by the dialogues and behaviors of superstars. For instance, Kamaladalam, 1992, Mohanlal's character forcibly kisses Manju Varyar's character without consent, portrayed with a romantic background score. What level of love are we trying to establish here? We must discard the foolish notion that no secretly means yes. A real-world example, as Indian youth in Australia, influenced by Bollywood, persistently stalked a woman after rejection. The court let him off slightly, recognized him as a product of Bollywood culture. This shows how deeply cinema influences real-life behavior. Today, even school students make double-meaning jokes about teachers, a reflection of normalized casual disrespect. In a Balachandran Menon movie, a dialogue goes, "Why should my wife go to the temple? Isn't her God, husband, at home itself?" This sums up the deep patriarchal thinking, the husband as God and the wife as a slave. Is it any wonder that domestic violence is rampant here? Another toxic image perpetuated is that a rape survivor brings shame to her family. Thankfully, newer films are shifting the focus, so showing that it is the rapist and not the survivor who must be shamed. People loudly call for the rapist to be hanged, but at the same time, they consume and promote films that lay foundation for rape culture. Punishing rapists is necessary, but unless we dismantle the culture that creates rapists, our job is far from done. As Taslima Nasrin tweeted, people love violence. So when you give a solution to rape like hanging the rapist, lynching them and castrating them, murdering them, people just love the idea. But when you say educate men about women's inequality, fight patriarchy and misogyny, eradicate women's oppression, people won't like it. Everyone, irrespective of gender or age, is a product of patriarchy. Some of us have broken free, some are struggling, some remain unaware, and some pretend ignorance. As we acknowledge this reality, let us also celebrate those rare women characters who radiate kindness, strength, and goodness. Take Maladi, portrayed by Geeta in Valsalyam, a character brought to life with remarkable grace and the direction of Cochin Hanifa and writing of A.K. Lohindas. Ashwati, played by Mohini in Vesham, directed by V.M. Vinu, capturing silent strength and vulnerability, and Bindu, portrayed by Gobiga in Verude Oru Bharya, crafted beautifully by writer K. Girish Kumar and director Aku Akbar, whose quiet resilience spoke volumes. Several recent generation Malayalam movies, despite being hailed for technical brilliance and realistic storytelling, subtly or overtly perpetrate misogyny through problematic character portrayals, dialogues, and narratives. For example, Madhura Raja 2019, Big Brother 2020 reduced female characters to ornamental roles with minimal agency, focusing predominantly on the male hero journey. Similarly, Kasaba 2016, despite its cult following, sparked controversy on its protagonist's sexist dialogues, which normalize objectification and trivialize consent. Films like Masterpiece 2017 often glory hyper-masculine behavior, savior figures, while portraying women as helpless victims availing male protection. Chunks 2017 is infamous for the crude portrayal of women, treating them for comic props on humor. Similarly, Tamaka 2020 normalizes stalking and toxic masculinity with female characters existing only as romantic interest or sexualized object. The list could go on endlessly. It is not because the examples have ended but that I stopped writing. It's simply because sometimes words aren't enough to capture the depth of these performances. Despite the undeniable brilliance of Malayalam cinema, its rich storytelling, unforgettable characters, and celebrated artistry, it is impossible to ignore that undercurrent of misogyny that has threaded through many of its narratives. Time and again, women have been confined to roles of sacrifice, submission, or silent endurances, their identities defined by men around them. Yet, cinema is a living, evolving mirror of society. As audiences grow more and more aware, demand authenticity and fairness, there is hope. We are beginning to see stories where women are no longer accessories to a man's journey, but are given their own space, voice, and agency. It is through continued reflection, critique, and bold storytelling that Malayalam cinema can move toward a future where characters, regardless of gender, is portrayed with depth, dignity, and complexity that they deserve. Change is slow, but it has begun, and the conversation must continue.